ahead.
If I have like one thing, Kevin, please let the good guys win on this show once in a while.
They do win. I mean, there's a lot of wins. I mean, I think that it's just maybe they're not perceived as wins because they don't get Joe Carroll. They don't sort of get Joey, that we drag that out to the very end. I mean, I feel like, the one criticism of just, the FBI sort of being inept, I guess, is sort of, the one that, guilty to some, and I feel like we've sort of solved that for this coming year, or at least taken it into great consideration, because I feel it's one of those shows where when you're typically watching the good guys, you don't really see what the bad guys are up to in a traditional show. In a procedural something, you see the bad guys very limited, very sneaking around, but you don't really know what they're up to. We completely give you the other half of the story. The audience is privy to 50-50. They're getting the bad guys, their plan, the good guys. So there's really, you can't win in that scenario. If the bad guy is going to stay on the loose, the good guy has to look a little dumb. And we've learned our lesson. And so, one of the things we're doing is we're pushing the show away from the FBI. So it's not going to be so, what are the dumb FBI doing this week? Well, they're not going to be in the show. It's not necessarily an FBI, let's find them. But they're not,
So that's how you're not going to make it so dumb, you're just going to yank them out?
Well, no, the FBI's in the show for sure. And the trick is just to, make sure that you truly, you give your heroes their wins, you give them their smart moves, and you really make sure that they're, and then when the FBI can't be the smartest person in the room, at least Ryan Hardy is. But we don't focus primarily on the FBI. We focus on Ryan Hardy a year later, and how he sort of is a little bit of a lone wolf this year, and he's on his own.
Was there a plan all along for Joe Carroll to survive, or did you do that as watching viewers respond to him?
Oh no, it's always been a plan. I mean, I wouldn't want. It's funny. You don't have to kill Joe Carroll. I think the trick is you just have to keep him alive and vibrant, and you do that by bringing in other characters.
This is a very serialized, very intense show. How far ahead do you have it mapped out to be able to keep it viable season after season?
Well, we have. When I pitched it, I had a 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
And then with the third, with some ideas for 4. But God, let's knock on wood. Hopefully we can get there. But I do believe that I have a really good map for the first 3 seasons, and I have some potential ideas for 4. But I will tell you, even the second season has changed as a result of living through the first season. Because you have to, no matter how much you plan, you have got to be able to change it. You have to, you're sitting in a room full of writers, and everyone has ideas every single day. So you just sort of it keeps evolving. And there's stuff last year that we never got to.
Right.
So that hopefully we're getting to it this year, and there's some stuff we'll go, oh no, that's season 3,
Do you think...
We have shows now where the bad guys get more popular than the good guys. How do you see that in the fall? Are the bad guys more popular than the good guys?
Well, it's one of those shows where we show so much of the bad guys, and we get into their lives, and there's so much, everyone loves them. I think the bad guys are so much more interesting, dealing with their psychosis and their motives and their reasons for doing what they're doing and their actual actions of doing it. They're just more fascinating to watch. But what's fun about this is, Ryan Hardy is sort of on his own this year, for the most part, and he doesn't play by the book anymore. He's not interested in the law. He's not interested in being necessarily the good guy. But the conflict there is, intrinsically, he is a good guy. He is a man who knows the difference between right and wrong, and he does want to save lives, and he does want good to ultimately win out, but his means to get there isn't always so noble. This year is a very dark Ryan.
Do you think the shorter 15-episode season was, really a big factor in the show's quality and success, rather than being forced to stretch it out to a full 22 or 24 episodes?
I hope so. I mean, like I say, we learned, we had a lot of growing pains last year, and we learned a lot about, and this year, we all of us just. Where the crew, I thought, just delivered such a beautiful looking show, and we have, Marcus, I think, has assembled a great look and style of the show, of just sort of that sort of that unnerving sort of handheld style. But the writers, we had a learning curve. We had a learning curve of how to serialize the show, how to break it down into 15 episodes, and how to arc it out so that it didn't start to feel repetitive. And so this year we've got I've got some new writers involved. I've got some, because of the popularity of the show, I was able to sort of enlist some great talent that wasn't available to me last year. And so I've got some really talented writers that I'm really excited about, and they're delivering, and I think it's going to be a really good season. And
Well,
then,
the scene you showed in the panel is very, very violent. And
no, it was bloody. It wasn't violent.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
No, well,
There was a lot of blood. But
all the
where
other-
was the
the audience-
violence? Where he hit her head?
What's that?
Oh, that was last year's stuff. That was from last year.
This one you showed the panel.
Oh, right, we cut it out of. All right, so the footage of him killing Molly
Yeah.
was part of last year's show that we didn't air, and the only new stuff was the ambulance and the hospital. That was the only new footage.
Okay.
So you didn't see that because we cut it right when we stabbed him. Yes. Yeah.
Do you
So we were going to reveal her death in the final moment of last year, but we stopped it.
Do you expect to see a lot of Edgar Allan Poe's this holiday?
You know what? Oh, this year? I don't know. We'll see. I've got a mask. I'll wear it. I have, no. We're kind of putting a more, he's not going to be in so much of, Edgar Allan Poe, one of the things I think Joe Carroll ultimately realizes is, and not too much of a spoiler, which is, he's not necessarily the best writer. We know that. His book flopped. He wasn't so good at it. And so I think he feels a bit like a failure. He didn't get what he wanted. His goals. He threw his cult under the bus basically to get out of town, and so I think this year he's got to figure out a new path. He's got to figure out a new plan of attack. And I don't think being a writer works for him. But he does do other things very well, and so he's going to concentrate on what he does best.
Can you tell us a little bit about the relationship between Mike Weston and Ryan Hart?
Yes.
You talked about whether Ryan is somewhat of a mentor or is Mike more of a mirror.
Well, it's actually a little bit of both. Last year it was a bit of a sort of that mentor-student relationship, or sort of but one of the themes this year is family. It's really big on family. We have Max, who's Ryan's niece. We have Weston and Mike. Mike West, Mike and Ryan, who have sort of that bond, which could be seen as father-son or brother, older brother, younger brother, however that is, and that relationship is it's a year later. Where did we actually? That is the first episode. We just dive right in. Who are they a year later? And they come at each other right from the get-go. It's not an easy relationship, but that's what happens when two people have a lot of trauma, shared trauma, and also Ryan cares too much. And I think he, somewhere deep inside, he knows that if he gets too close to Weston will end up dead. And so there's your internal conflict. He can't get close to the people he cares about.
How do you decide who lives and who dies?
We roll the dice. No, we flip a coin. No, we don't. We plan it all out. It's like, it's so funny that I get this because I kill people in Vampire Diaries, and everyone's like, why do you kill people? I'm like, well, I don't seek out to kill people. I want to tell a compelling story. And we reached a point in television where you got to, the 80s and 90s where your lead characters just never die. And I just went, then there's no jeopardy. So I just started whacking them. And then it seemed to work. And now whacking them, they're expecting us to kill them. So then now you're just making me not kill them. So I want to do, and I don't like to kill anyone until I truly explore. I want to make their death worthwhile, so I want to explore them first. And I always regret killing someone that I didn't fully explore. And so, like Roderick last year, I wish I'd explored him a little bit further. I wish some of the characters I would have been able to dive into, but I was 15 episodes.
With Parker, I thought you did a good job with her backstory, with her family.
I would love to have done more.
Yeah.
And we were such a show of, it became such a procedural element to it that we couldn't do more character work with her. And I was so bummed and frustrated because I wanted to go back to that cult. We had a whole storyline planned with her parents, another reunion. We had a whole Joe Carroll intersection. We had it all worked out, and we just couldn't do it in 15 episodes. It was so frustrating.
You. Thank you so
And
much.
much
so
later.
good, too.
Oh,
She was
thank you.
tremendous.
She is amazing.
Yeah.
And she loved doing that.
Yeah,
She was
I
like,
bet.
bury me. And then we put her in that coffin, and she was like, get me out of here. I mean, you should talk to her. She panicked. She was
Oh,
like,
that's
she was beating on the coffin, get me out.